Hey guys, so today I'm going to be trying to answer the age-old question, can you get a great mix while exclusively using free plugins? Let's find out. Not too shabby. So to answer your question, yes. So setting this up was nothing short of a nightmare, so if you don't want to go through all the hassle, consider dropping over to my Patreon where I have this available for purchase. It's going to save you a lot of time with the setup, and it's also going to come with an extra couple bonus goodies like custom cab IR, which I used in this mix, and the custom kick one shot I used. So if that's something that interests you, check that out in the description. So let's see how we got this sound here. So first up off the bat, we got a drum plugin. Drum roll please. The MT Power Drum Kit 2. So this is a free VSTs instrument plugin that I will leave in the description if you want to download it. Sounds pretty good off the bat. There's a little mixer page here where we can multi out everything, which is super important to getting a good sound. And let's see how I'm routing this. So I set up a rack instrument in Cubase. So I have everything multi-outed. I have kick, snare, tom, hat, ride, left crash, right crash. But there's some trickery going on here because it wasn't huge on the kick sound. So what I did is used a MIDI send to send this to this kick sample thing right here. And I loaded up a custom one shot. This will also be included in the download. So super fat kick. I just thought it fit the mix a lot better. And that is triggering off of this MIDI track. So it's all off one MIDI track. And I'm doing a similar thing here with the snare room, but there was no independent snare room to this library, to the MT Power. So what I did is loaded up ML drums free. Yes, that's right. So I'm using two drum kits like simultaneously. And on this instance of ML drums, I basically just went to the mixer, went to the snare, and basically turned down the direct mic a bunch, turned up the rooms to compensate. So basically it's all room sound. And that's layered in with the normal snare. So let's hear that snare. And let's hear it without the snare room. Way more dry. And then after that we got the toms. These are coming from the MT Power. Really punchy sounding, sound great. And then we got the hat from MT Power, ride from MT Power. Now the crashes wasn't huge on these. So what I did is replace them with ML drums. There's only a left crash in this free version, so what I did was to get the right one, I took the left one and just panned it on a different track. So here's the left, and over here we got the right crash. So as you can see, it's still a left crash, but sounds like it's on the right, and I'm just panning that in Cubase to right 61. After that, we got the overheads. So here I just did a bit of EQing, took out some whistling stuff. This is from MT Power. So really it's just the China that's getting affected, the China and the splash. It sounds pretty good if I play the whole drum kit now. As for the processing, I'm just doing a bit of Cubase stock plugins on these. I got like some tape saturation on the snare, Gclip also on the snare. This is a free plugin that I also will link in the description. Sounds massive. After that, I'm routing the kick to a kick bus. This is just like a more organizational thing. I just like to have everything routed to a bus at the end so I can quickly control it. On the snare, doing a bit of EQ, bit of whistling frequencies took out in the mid-range. Toms, doing the typical kind of stuff, boosting the highs a bit, ducking the low mids. Also clipping. I'm also routing the snare to a snare reverb, which we can listen to here. So let's hear it without. And with. So it adds quite a bit more depth. Same here, we got a tom verb. Again, these are all Cubase stock plugins. So short decay time there on the toms. Awesome, now we can talk guitar. So got an envelope shaper, this is the stock Cubase one, boosting a bunch of attack to the actual DI. And then we have the Ignite Emissary. So it's a huge sounding amp. It doesn't come with any stock cab settings. So basically what you have to do is load up the Nad IR, which this is also free. And I have this custom IR that's going to be available in the project file link. So just head to the description for that. After that, we got some EQ. So take out some of that woofiness in the low mids and take out some whistling frequencies. Another EQ. This one boosting a bit of like the super lows with a low shelf, and then also boosting the super highs around like 13K just to get a bunch of presence. And then here we got a multi-band compressor. This is kind of doing the Andy Sneap trick to tame the palm mutes. So it's just ducking that low mid band a little bit. This is just to get more attack out of the amplified guitar. So the first 30 milliseconds of the guitar hit after a pause, it's going to sound more pronounced and attacky compared to the rest of the release of the guitar. And that'll happen anytime there's like a pause, it'll sound more punchy because of this compressor setting. Then here's our side chain compressor. So this is set up to trigger off the snare. That just really helps the snare to cut through. It's basically ducking the guitar bus every time the snare hits. After that, I just have this Mix 6-2 plugin. I'm just using this as like a gain control just to turn down the track by like 4 dB so that I don't have to mess with my fader level. And then here we have a bass. So this is interesting. This is probably the most interesting part about this whole free idea thing. It was basically to take a bass plugin, which are already hard to find, like a nice free bass plugin that actually sounds good. But I found this one by IK Multimedia, and the problem with it was it's a standard tune bass, so basically, you know, we're playing in drop G here. We can't go down that low. So I had this creative idea to take a PitchProof plugin. So this is like a pitch shifter plugin, turn it 100% wet, and then set the pitch to -12. And I'll show you what this sounds like without that. It's gonna sound pretty bad. So it's basically, yeah, 12 frets higher than it would be, or supposed to be. But those notes were in range, so I was kind of forced to use those. So what I did, put the PitchProof on. You lose all clarity because all those high frequencies are getting ducked down as well. So what I did is brought them back with this massive high shelf, doing 24 dB. And we start to retain some of that information, which is great. So bass sub, VST bass amp on there with the green Terror amp, and then a brick wall limiter, just kind of kissing it. And then the high, got a quadra fuzz, just diming the distortion here on the, and then we have an envelope shaper, kind of doing a similar thing to the guitar where I just boosted the attack a bunch. And then we have a VST bass amp again, going through a green Terror. And then we have frequency. So I'm boosting a lot of that like 2.5K, 3K area, dipping out some of the honky mid-range stuff and some low mids. This guy's just to take out some of that super aggressive 4K kind of area, 3K, just to make it a bit easier on the ears. So that's everything bypassed. And then with it all. And then including that low sub in there. Pretty decent bass tone. Down here we got some production stuff, some ticks, just to kind of help out the rhythm a bit. And then we also have this impact. So this really help everything cut through. And also we got some synth stuff. And this is kind of interesting. I used all stock Cubase stuff. So we have this Halion Sonic 7 lead thing. Here's what it sounds like on its own. It's like this super cheesy 80s lead thing. But I basically put a stereo delay, offset these a little bit to get a bit more of a wide feel. And then we put on a VST amp rack, just with the metal amp, the Diamond I think it's called. A stereo delay, which is basically just a copy paste of the other one. And then we have a reverb and then a gate. If I bypass all that again, then we end up with this. It's a super eerie sounding synth. And I have another one here, which I made using the Retrolog plugin from the stock Cubase suite. And the main juice of this is coming from this sequencer page where I just set up this little contemporary ARP 2, just a little sequence. When you play the two together, And that pretty much covers the whole project. I also have some stuff on the master. We have a tube compressor. This is the stock one from Cubase. I've never really used this thing before, but it's actually pretty cool. It can do all the stuff like an SSL can. You get the high pass cutoff here, which I set to about 100. Low ratio, character at 0. Super fast attack, super fast release, no drive. And then just kind of adjusting the input until we're hitting that sweet spot of like 1 to 4 around there. And you kind of want the snare to peak it the hardest. And then we have a frequency. So this, I'm just boosting a bunch of high end, cutting out the super lows. So that adds that really nice shimmery high end. And then I just have a Gclip for the master, this is such an underrated plugin. It's so simple and so old, but really it does a great job. And here I basically just bumped up the gain knob until I was hitting a reasonable loudness of about like -8 to -6 LUFS. And that's pretty much it for this project. So I'm gonna mute the inserts. Turn them back on. Awesome guys, so again, if you want this project file, it's going to be available on my Patreon. Links in the description for that. Hope you guys have a good one. Cheers.